Jalen Ramsey has been traded from the Jacksonville Jaguars to the Los Angeles Rams, and I will explain why the Rams are the big losers of this trade. And the Washington Nationals are heading to the World Series. I'll talk about why the Nats are much better off without Bryce Harper, and why the Phillies have made a $330 million mistake. So sit back, relax, and take a seat. Courtside. Hello there and welcome to episode 37 of Courtside. I am your host, Andrew Cohen. Today is October 16th, and yesterday was a very interesting day in the NFL. The Rams pulled off a couple of major trades. First, they traded Marcus Peters to the Ravens in what I personally thought was a very surprising move. And then after putting Aqib Talib on IR this week too, it just did not seem to make any sense. It seemed like the Rams were just going to go without any corners for the rest of the year. However, we then had some Tuesday night fireworks, and the Rams acquired Jalen Ramsey from the Jaguars in exchange for a 2020 first rounder, 2021 first rounder, and a 2021 fourth rounder. And quite frankly, I think the Rams made a terrible move here. First of all, the Rams as of now are not Super Bowl contenders. They're not. They've lost 3 straight. Gurley's not the same guy. Goff hasn't looked good. Goff has 7 touchdowns to 7 picks. That's awful. And he only had 78 passing yards this past week against the 49ers. The 49ers offense, especially in the fourth quarter, was okay. Right? It wasn't anything special. I don't think the Niners scored in the fourth quarter. The Rams continued to get opportunity after opportunity, and they just could not do anything. Yes, the 49ers defense is really good this year, but the Rams offense stunk, and I think it has to do with Jared Goff a ton. Rams are also, in my opinion, they're the third best team in their division right now. Their defense has allowed 35 points per game over their last 3 games. They have a -3 turnover differential. Last year, I think only 2 teams, the Eagles and Ravens, made it to the playoffs with a negative turnover differential. You don't want to you're not going to make the playoffs unless you have a positive turnover differential. That's what history tells us. And I could go on. I could pile on the Rams right now. But long story short, they have a lot of issues currently. And I don't think taking out Aqib Talib and Marcus Peters and replacing them with Jalen Ramsey, I don't think that solves the Rams' problems whatsoever. So right now, I don't think the Rams are a great team in the short term. But guess what? They also have long-term trouble as well. They have a terrible salary cap situation. They have money tied to so many guys heading into the future. Jared Goff and Todd Gurley, who again, they both don't look like they're going to live up to their contracts. When they signed Goff to that big extension this offseason, I was questioning it so much. He had not proved anything up until that point. And in fact, if he's proved anything up to this point in his career, it's that he won't live up to that contract. The Rams also have money tied to guys like Aaron Donald, Brandon Cooks, Robert Woods, and more guys, even going down the line. At a certain point, you can't keep everybody. And I don't think the Rams are going to be able to keep Ramsey long-term, even if they want to. If they sign Ramsey to a long-term contract, the Rams are going to end up with having about 6 players and then a bunch of randos. That's what it's going to be. So if Ramsey ends up being a 2-year rental, and the Rams are going to have a tough time getting to the Super Bowl in the short term, what are we doing? This is a terrible trade. You're not good in the short term. You're not good long term. What are you doing? Not to mention this. Now, granted, this is only going to be the case, hopefully, for the next couple years. But under the current CBA, the best values when it comes to contracts are first-round picks. You can have them under contract for 5 years, and they will almost certainly be underpaid relative to other guys in their position, specifically for those first 4 years before the 5th-year option comes in. Jalen Ramsey is actually a great example of this. He's a top 5 cornerback, but I believe he's 37th or so when it comes to being he's 37th at his position in terms of pay. He has tremendous value. Up to this point in his career, he has had tremendous value in terms of his contract. They don't have any of those guys. The Rams have not had a first-round pick since 2016, and they will not have another one until 2022, unless they trade that one away as well, because let's be honest, that seems like that's the way it's trending. So with very few, maybe 0 bargain contracts, no cap relief in sight, and a team that as of now just does not seem good enough to even make the playoffs, let alone the Super Bowl, I believe the Rams are the biggest losers of the Jalen Ramsey trade. When Bryce Harper signed with the Phillies this past offseason, it was the end of an era in Washington. It was seemingly the end of an era of playoff hopes and World Series aspirations. It was seemingly the end of an era of superstardom in the nation's capital. As it turns out, however, it was really the end of an era of a false superstar and the end of an era of playoff disappointment. Bryce Harper is not an MLB superstar. He's been portrayed as one for his entire career, but he's not a real superstar. Listen, he won Rookie of the Year in 2012. Everyone was talking about his potential. He could be maybe the best player in the MLB someday. Then he has a monster season in 2015. Leads the league in home runs, on-base percentage, slugging percentage, OPS, runs scored. Wins the National League MVP. And everybody is like, okay, is it Bryce Harper? Is it Mike Trout? Who's the best player in the league? That was the big debate. After that amazing 2015 campaign, Harper has only had 1 year. He only had 1 year in the Nationals. He had 3 more years with the Nationals, but only one that I would call elite, which was 2017. But in 2016 and 2018, Harper failed to hit above 250, had a very high strikeout rate, and those numbers continued in 2019, by the way. But also in 2016 and 2018, he had WARs of 1.5 and 1.3 respectively. That's not good whatsoever, especially for a guy regarded as one of the best players in the league. Yet despite those numbers, the Phillies went ahead and gave him a $330 million contract over 13 years to be their new franchise superstar for, again, the next 13 years. And in year one, not to my surprise, not to the surprise of many others, Harper once again failed to live up to superstar expectations. Phillies missed the playoffs. Their offense was terrible. I don't want to say terrible, but it struggled. They finished 22nd in the league in both home runs and batting average, and they consistently finished somewhere from around 14 to 17 in every other major batting category. Right, so they're middle of the pack at best. But when you just paid a guy $330 million to be the centerpiece of your offense, that's bad. You have to finish much higher than middle of the pack. Nationals, on the other hand, actually were in the top of the pack, if you want to put it that way. They had a great season. They were 6th in runs scored and 6th in batting average, 7th in hits, 2nd in on-base percentage. I can go on. But what's especially important for the Nationals is that their de facto replacement for Bryce Harper, Juan Soto, was a better player than Harper this year. Listen to these stats. So home runs, Harper with 35, Soto with 34. RBIs, Harper with 114, Soto with 110. Hits, Harper with 149, Soto 153. Total bases, Harper 292, Soto 297. As you can see, these stats are very similar, very similar. But here's where Soto separates himself. He did all of this in 31 fewer at-bats. Might seem insignificant. It's not. That's a pretty large number in my mind. He had 46 fewer strikeouts. He had a 282 batting average compared to Harper's 260 batting average. He had about 30 points higher in on-base percentage and slugging percentage. And, oh yeah, he's only 20 years old, which makes him 6 years younger than Bryce Harper. And guess what? How about salaries? Soto made about $578,000 this year, whereas Harper has an average salary of about $25 million. I rest my case. In the Bryce Harper era in Washington, the Nationals failed to win a single NLDS, despite playing in 4 of them over Harper's 7-year career in Washington. In the post-Bryce Harper era, which has been 1 year, the Nationals have made 1 World Series. I think it speaks for itself. The Nationals, without a doubt, are much better without Bryce Harper. Thank you guys so much for listening to this edition of Courtside. If you enjoyed, make sure to subscribe to the podcast wherever you may be listening. Leave a like if you're listening on YouTube. And go check out the podcast on Twitter. Handle is at the Courtside Pod. Link will be in the description below. Next time, I will be doing my NBA season preview. Season starts next Tuesday. I'm excited. You're excited. Let's talk about it. Until then, signing off, this is Andrew Cohen. I'll see you next time.